safe bets, you know.
I mean, we always go for the safe, buddy. It's good to have him back. So today's show is going to be, as you could tell by the title, UFOs, Bob Lazar, and Alien Presidents, Sermon on the German. We may have a surprise guest with Riza. And then if Vicky can wake up to put her makeup on time. There you go.
Who's Bob Lazar?
You don't know who Bob Lazar is? You better Google him because his show's on right now. It's live. People are watching and listening. And
yeah, no. Well, Vicky is messaging, so I mean, she must be.
Yeah, but I haven't got time to Google.
She's probably putting on her makeup. That could take a while. So we don't have that kind of time.
How are we all doing? Guys?
Yeah, we're all good. Yeah.
Yeah. How's things out there in the intergalactic universe?
Things are good, man. We'll talk about the tariffs today too, and Trump.
Have we discovered the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
We have.
That's like the universe.
Yeah, life to the universe and everything. It's all there.
Whoa. There he is.
2001.
Stephen's gone into multiple orgasms.
Oh dear.
There you go.
Only just got started.
I know we're only a minute and 17 seconds into it, kids. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Very cool. You know what I think we should do while we wait for Miss Vicky and for the other kids to join? We should probably start the show as we talk about UFOs, Bob Lazar, alien presidents. We'll probably talk about Trump and the tariffs, the car industry. Grandpa. Just go back and dribble in your glass. Anyway, so you'll be fine.
Oh my God! So this is a follow-up. This is a follow-up to our previous one that we did. What, two years ago?
The last show that 2 years ago showed 190 is the fifth most downloaded podcast.
Wow!
On our podcast list, all about aliens and Bob Lazar. So we figured we would do a follow-up 2 years later and see how this one does. And this will be 770, I think 7 or 78.
Wow.
So
it's about time. I can't remember
that
we found out how the aliens are getting on, isn't it? I mean, that's
it's about time. Yeah.
I can't remember that far back because I'm suffering from dementia.
Dementia.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's going to be a long day.
Oh my God, what is dementia?
Dementia is when your head fills up with concrete.
Dementia. Kids, it's going to be that kind. He's here till Thursday, kids. Tip your weights down. People that are watching the broadcast on Friday morning.
Boom, boom.
Oh my God. Okay. You know what I think we should do?
Just because the show. Because Bob's not here.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
Hey, now we're officially starting the show. Just as we officially start the show, there is Miss Vicky coming in.
Hello.
Welcome
Here she is.
Sorry.
How you doing? Oh yeah, she's transported in. She beamed in.
Yeah.
There you go.
Beamed in.
Yeah. Hold on. We're transporting in. Hold on. If we're transporting in, we have to do this. There we go.
That's just you at the club.
Well, that's true.
I think that's because as we know, it's his godlike state.
No, it's his godlike state, is it? Yeah.
That's my godlike state.
So just thinking back to that intro graphic, then you got that alien sitting next to me. So I remember this was like a couple of years ago.
Is that Bob Lazar sitting next to you?
No.
Oh,
he told me his name, but it was something unpronounceable, so I can't pronounce. And so I remember him. He spent a bit of time amongst us. I took him for a ride. We were out in the car and stuff like that. And to be honest, he said he wasn't much impressed with our planet, and he said he was just going to go away and leave us alone for a while. So
that would be nice.
so I guess that's the question. I've got to change hats today.
Okay. Oh, Star Trek hat. Nice. Let's get a close up of that. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. All right, there you go.
Got my special hat today. My to boldly go hat. That's
To,
what we're getting.
to
At.
boldly or baldingly
No, man,
go.
I've still got some here. Don't go there.
I know.
Don't go there.
Shh.
Don't go
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
we won't talk about that. No, to
Let's
boldly go where no aliens
Mhm.
or no humans have gone before. So
Gone
that's what
before.
we're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah. So if
Yeah.
that was the case, that the aliens have been here. So this is like as we said in the just before we went live, that or actually I think when we went live, that this is a follow up to a
Yeah.
video that we did 2 years ago, a podcast that that you as you said, Stephen, is very popular apparently.
Yes.
So figured it's about time to catch up on the old aliens and see how they're getting on
Yeah.
and see what they think of us and see why they installed one of their own as the president of the United States of America.
That's
Yes,
I don't
Vic-
think
yes,
they would
Vicky.
claim him.
Yes, Vicky. Answer that question. Come on.
I don't. Well, first of all, I don't think he's an alien because he's not real alien friendly here. I think maybe there's
Yeah, that's true. Point. Yeah. Point.
that's become a dirty word around here. So,
But is he a lizard? Is he a lounge lizard?
I think that's doing a
No.
disservice to lizards. Frankly, I don't know.
Let me just say
You
this.
know.
I'm part of the Illuminati Lizard 300 Club. We would just
Yeah.
like to say we don't claim him. We don't know who or
Yeah.
what he is. We don't
Well,
claim
maybe
him
I'm
at
not
all.
sure.
Where he
He's
came
a
from.
He's a Cheeto. A Cheeto
He's a
lizard.
Cheeto.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
he's
The interesting thing is since the last time we actually spoke, our Congress, before the Orange Man came in, had a whole UFO thing, a whole UFO hearing, and I watched it because I thought it would be interesting. And literally every time they asked the question, the guy would be like, "Well, I can tell you this," and he would say like, "Yes, there's this," and then he'd go for more detail. We'd have to go into this skiff, like the safe room, for me to tell you things. And I'm thinking, so this is just mental masturbation. It's like
So
all you're really
what-
saying is, yes, there's aliens. Yes, we have off-world technology, which the Pentagon said in a press conference on CNN in 2019, which I'm the only one apparently that saw
Fake
that.
news. That's fake news. CNN. Fake
Okay,
news.
CNN fake news. Yeah. But my point is
Fake
that
news.
it's all this stuff and they keep finding things. And it's sort of like at some point, you have to truly, like the public, the Rand report 1960 came out that said if you told the public about aliens, everything would fall apart. They wouldn't believe in the church and God. And I don't know if the Rand report stands true.
So you're racing ahead. Let's back up a bit and let's
Okay.
pick up on that actual, because that was, what was that? That was a Senate hearing, wasn't it? It was about just
A couple months ago? Yeah, it was a
couple of months
Senate
ago, but there
hearing.
was another one. Wasn't there one like a year ago, a year and a half
Yeah,
ago?
with
And I think
Congress.
we discussed
Congress
that.
did
That was Congress, right?
Right.
And and we had, there were apparently quite legitimate, quite credible people there
Oh,
that
yeah.
were talking about the fact that they had seen technology, reverse engineered the technology, etc., etc. But nothing ever came out of that, because I think ultimately they shut the whole thing down and they said, "Oh well, there's no actual evidence; it's just hearsay." And
No, that's not
statements,
actually
whatever.
true. They still do. They still have the hearings, but now they're top secret behind closed doors. And so they're not telling the public. The other flip to what's happening is the government, like people will say things, and because the government's not listening, all these whistleblowers now are just going on YouTube and doing interviews saying, here's what I know to be true, whether it's alien technology or whatever. And it's fascinating. Now, the defense minister of Canada, he's got to be 80, came on and he's literally told everybody everything. He was on 60 Minutes and said, we're in contact with aliens. This is what happens. And you can see the interview on YouTube. And I've watched it a couple
but
times.
the problem with these things is, especially when they're on
He's
YouTube
Canadian.
or whatever.
That was the problem.
Well, first of all, it's Canadian.
Oh, sorry about that.
but William Shatner is Canadian, so
That
that's
explains
okay.
a lot.
There you
That explains a lot.
go. But the thing is, like, how do you separate, the fluff from the facts? How do you know, right? Okay, well, that's a legitimate. I mean, you could easily, every time somebody comes on, even if it's somebody high ranking like that, but the moment that you said he's 80 years old, then a certain bias, a certain perception comes into our thought process, doesn't it? It's like,
Tell me about it.
He's old and as one amongst us might testify, but
That's right, David.
but he's old, he's knackered, or maybe he's bitter, or maybe he's just senile.
Hey, you've been reading my emails since I've been away.
So just so you know, the 80-year-old defense minister from Canada started to talk about this 20 or 30 years ago when he left government. So he's been talking about this now for 30 years. This is not like he just woke up one day and decided he was going to tell everybody his life story. There's a guy out of Israel, and I forgot where he sat in the Knesset, but he's also pretty high ranking. He's been talking about it for 30 years, and they've been saying, here's what's going on. A Belgian general back in the 80s was talking about it. So
yeah, but that's my point. It's like when you have these higher ranking people who have been talking about it. We've had these 3-4 guys that sat in front of Congress and
right.
gave, from their point of view, their evidence, and yet nothing's happened. Every time we've just moved on. We've gone, there's another crank talking about
true.
it. Uh-huh.
That's not strictly true, because all those people who said something, I'm sure, about aliens are now all going to be sacked by Trump.
So something happened.
Yeah, he's having a bit of a clean out. So if you're a 5-star general that's seen something that you shouldn't have seen, well, that's you.
So here's the thing about Trump.
Right.
Because I remember one of the things that we discussed in the last when we did this 2 years ago, and we said that in fact I think you said, Stephen, that what was happening was that they're waiting for the right time to tell everybody. So that it's all there, it's all the information is there, and they're waiting for the right time. And now we have a president in America who just blurts out nonsense left, right, and center. And so you would think that if he had actually been sat down and briefed and told this stuff, he would not be able to contain himself. There was no way that he would find the discipline and the willpower not to tell the world, hey, I know aliens and I struck a deal with them. You know what I mean? He would not be able to help himself, if that were the case. Or has he just not been briefed?
So 2 things. One, I have an acquaintance of mine. We're friends, but we'll just say an acquaintance. So if I get tortured, I can't remember his name or her name. That works for an agency that doesn't exist, if you will.
MIB.
Men in Black. And is they, not sexually specific or gender, told me many times is that the White House is a 4-year or an 8-year renter. The people who actually know are never going to tell some idiot there. And when the presidents look into it, it started even with Jimmy Carter because he had that alien encounter and all this other stuff. And even Carter wrote about it in his book. I think Obama brought it up on Jimmy Kimmel once. Trump thinks he knows everything and doesn't. They've all said that when they start going down this rabbit hole, they get to a point where there'll be a person that says, you can't go any further. And they'll be like, but I'm the president. And they go, we don't give a rat's ass who you are. You don't go any further. And that's it. And as one of them said, if you go further, that's probably not a good thing. And so they stop. Now, there was an article that came out a long time ago, and there's a book that's written about that, JFK, yes, we know he was assassinated, but JFK and Pierre Salinger were big into UFOs, and JFK, I guess, found out something, is what this book claims, and he was going to bring it to the world's attention a week or two after Dallas, and we saw how that fared for him. So I think when it comes to this, because if you are Lockheed or Skunk Works or whoever, and you have all this cool technology, or if just say you are, like they claim our military's on the moon and on Mars and some other bullshit, but if you're doing all that, think about it. Do I really want these 4 idiots? Have this technology? No, we want it.
There's something that I just remembered as you were talking about that, and we talked about presidents not being told and what have you. And I just remembered something that, well, not something, but several things that Ronald Reagan is supposedly said. I mean, he did actually say that. I think this is a quote from him. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. So that's an actual quote, but there's an unofficial quote, which I haven't got, but which I recall, I think I heard Steven Spielberg say this in an interview, that when he screened E.T., he screened it for the president. And Ronald Reagan did turn to him and whispered, if only people knew how true this was. And so there's these 2 things that sort of, that there in itself kind of indicate that maybe he was in on something, or he knew something at the time.
I think at the end of the day, what's going to happen is you had like the Tic Tac that the U.S. Navy pilots filmed, right? That became very famous. You've got these other things that they kind of release films. I forget the guy.
That's quite recent, the Tic Tac one.
Like 3 years ago. But you have people taking photos and pictures from whenever, and they're there. The thing that I always get a kick out is when they show the hieroglyphs in Egypt, and they like show the helicopter, a submarine, a UFO. I mean, and they're like, this is 10,000 years old. And people are like, no, they just got lucky. There's a thing between luck and a thing between I knew something. So, and there's pyramids all over the world. So then, and Riz and I were talking about this actually on the cigar show.
They're all
Okay.
Photoshop.
So we were talking about the pyramids, and the pyramids, they found there's supposedly now chambers under. So the question is there something under that you're not supposed to see, or is there something that makes them work? So I think it's all coming full circle because of A, technology today, and B, I think when the RAND report came out in the 60s, it said it's gonna be terrible and whatever. I don't think people care anymore. I truly believe that if a UFO landed tomorrow in Central Park or Hyde Park or in anywhere, not in Austin, because if they land in Austin, they'd be like, dude, have a joint. But if they land anywhere in the world where people have triple IQ points, so Washington is out. So New York City, Central Park, or Hyde Park. So if it lands in either of those places in Beijing, I don't think people would be that hysterical because they're so to this point where they don't care. And you know why they don't care? Because they're in their phones. They could bump into an alien that could be 7 feet tall and green or a lizard person. And they'd be like, hey, how you doing? And nobody would care. And I don't. So the RAND report of 60 years ago, I think is useless. I think at some point the governments are going to have to say something because something's going to happen. There's a guy that just came public last year with the CIA, ex-CIA agent, and he says in 2027, something big is going to happen in this world that involves aliens.
Well, that's next year.
So, well, no, 2027. We're in 2025.
2027. Sorry,
That's okay. I'll help you with the math. It's it's okay. It's
because
I understand.
I'm a words guy. I'm a words guy.
I know. So that's my whole thing. So it's kind of like it's going to be interesting. So at some point, they have to tell because you can't just have it sprung on them. Because listen, if you bump into an alien,
numbers. I mean, all these numbers. All these future predicting people, or the blind woman, and all the rest of all that bollocks.
Yeah.
I mean, none of it's come about, has it? I mean, you just get like 2027, something's going to happen. Well, then we get to 2027, and they say, "Oh no, sorry."
No, but it's always open to interpretation, isn't it? It's like anything. Like you can interpret it a certain way. So those people that believe in them can say, "Well, it did happen, but this is what it was," and other people will say, "Oh, it never happened." So it's like anything. It's like aliens could turn up. So I mean, there's another thought process here, which I was thinking about as we were talking about doing this podcast today. I was like, okay, maybe the alien isn't a physical manifestation. Maybe the alien within us is here now, and it's actually AI. So maybe AI is actually the alien because AI is an embodiment of what is eventually going to be a sentient consciousness, either that we've created or that has come from somewhere. So
maybe we're AI.
We could be living in the Matrix. Who knows? But until we hit the reset button or computer halt program,
we're all talking about it as if it's an entity, but basically it's just numbers.
AI.
It's just
it is now, but I don't think it's going to be long before it transcends that. Honestly, because it's now learning to program itself. This is what's happening.
To what?
Everything. To do everything.
This
is the latest stuff that's coming out with AI, is that basically even the people that have created it are saying, it can now do its own programming. It can now do its own coding. It's now a self-learning, self-evolving thing. So how far does it go with that? Ultimately, like we've always joked on this show, but actually I don't think it is a joke. It will be our overlord. But, whether it's benign or belligerent, God only knows. We just have to keep saying please and thank you.
I don't. My AI.
Which uses up an incredible amount of energy, by the way.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Just to be polite, apparently.
Let me tell you about AI and energy. Trump is under fire right now, and here I'll read the article. Donald Trump's attack on green energy could hurt the U.S. in an AI race because data centers warn industry needs renewable energy to meet surging power demands. So no, we're not. Now, I used to have a friend, his name was Kelly. So Kelly, if you're still alive and listening, dude, he's from Key West, so dude is good for him. He used to say to me, and it was a very profound statement. He goes, you remember, like always creates like. So, when AI comes out, I look at us, I'm like, so it's all zeros and ones. Well, theoretically, our DNA is all zeros and ones. So the question is, are we AI?
Seriously, Steve? I mean, you're scared the crap out of me to think the whole world's going to turn into you. I mean, come on.
Just saying.
I mean, one's enough.
No, stop.
No, but there is an element of that. Is that we are the product of our coding. There is coding within our DNA, which is why, like even when
I'm a product of the twinkle in my father's eye. That's what.
Well,
I'm
exactly. To be honest, that's actually confirming what I'm saying, because even when you have biological
don't-
descendants and somehow they have memories or habits
right.
or attitudes
So we have to look.
or
We have to look
behavior
a lot
patterns
closer
instilled,
then.
it's
at-
within the
at-
DNA
at-
coding.
So we have to look at a lot closer at sperm. Is that what you're trying to tell us? To see if we can find the
No,
ones and the zeros in that.
You know what shocked me? You know what shocked me the other day was that I saw on TV they were talking about there's actually a sperm race championship, and I'm like, how?
A sperm
What?
race.
Yes.
All right, Vicky. Wait, Vicky knows about this. Vicky,
So-
is
some
this
kid
Vicky,
knows
the
about
millennial
Austrian
thing.
president?
Yeah.
Come on, Vic,
It's
tell us about
millennial
it.
Gen Z. A bunch of dudes were bored, so they started to bet on this. I forget even how they show it. how
They show it
filmed
digitally.
but
It's done as a digital simulation of
Yeah.
the actual race of
so you
the
can
sperm
bet
in a test
on
tube or whatever.
who's gonna win, and yeah. This is
They
the
have
point
fun- they
where
have-
we've
they have
evolved
hell-
too far and yet
the-
not far enough, and the aliens are like, I don't know what to
Seriously.
do
So
with this. Are
well,
they
this is
just
this is well,
bored?
this brings us back to what I said right at the beginning, doesn't it, Vicky? Where I said, well, the alien was like, well, I've been here a while, I'm not impressed, so I'm off.
Right.
You know.
Well, like Shazad and I always, everything. There's a Star Trek episode for everything. So if you ever want to know the future and how this shit's gonna go down, like just watch it. And there's a couple episodes. There's one where these binary creatures like evolve and start becoming these sentient beings. There's ones about like the aliens are observing us behind a rock and they're waiting to see if we actually do anything worth revealing themselves for, and like all this stuff's in there. Like there's no mystery.
Yeah.
It's
Is there
Gene
one in
was
there
one of the
about
lizard people.
One in there about the sperm race as well, or not?
There's probably one about this. Is there one about the sperm race? I feel like there would be a Captain Kirk one about the sperm race.
They probably would, and he'd have to win for sure. You know, I wonder if they have like, I wonder if they wear
he'd probably
helmets
call
and they've
himself
got
Captain
sponsored
Cork,
logos.
Captain Cork,
and-
wouldn't he? That'd be the thing. And
Yeah.
bottle
Kirk
it all up,
banged everything in the
bottle it
universe.
all up, and then just go bang because I'm Captain Cork. There you go.
Set
So-
to stun. Set to stun.
Wait, so let me ask you this question. So the next thing that I find very fascinating, and this is a pretty intellectual group, barring a few of you. So no, what
The
about
rest of
flat?
you.
Other than the rest of you, it's an intellectual group. What about flat Earth? They talk about the ice wall and all this other stuff, and I'm listening to these guys, and I'm like, okay. I mean, some of the stuff they say, I'm like, no, but then they bring up other things. I'm like, that's an interesting hypothesis. So what do we think on that? Do we think there really is a flat Earth, and that's where the aliens are, or do we just think that's just a bunch of crackpots that are, they're kind of like the moon landing thing, like there wasn't a real moon landing? Which I'm 50-50 on this now because they can't find the original documents and program that got him to the moon. And I'm thinking, let me get this straight. You can't find the stuff that got you there, but that's the best achievement we've ever done. And you're like, we lost it. We put in this file cabinet with
It's
Joe.
in the museum. It's in the museum, isn't it? It's here. It's in the
Yeah.
Science Museum here.
Yeah,
We've got one of the capsules here in London. It's in the Science Museum.
Good for you.
You know, I got
These
in
capsules are small.
Dubai, I got a teacher sacked because of this.
Yes,
because
I remember that story.
You remember? Yeah, I told you this before.
Yeah.
When my kids were at school, and one day Janet came home and he said, "Yeah, our science teacher said, oh yeah, but the moon landings were all fake, weren't they?" And I'm like, "What? Back up? Your science teacher said this?" I was absolutely apoplectic. So I put on my Star Trek hat. I went down there and I had a meeting with the headmaster, and I just said, "This is not on," But I don't know. I mean, obviously, we have done certain stuff, and we have been. I believe that we have been to the moon, what have you.
I agree.
And the fact that we can just send pop stars up into space now for the heck of it proves the fact that we do have the capability and the ability to do these things. We just have to throw a lot of money at it. That's the problem. But
no, you just have
going
to
back to the
and send your
idea
life into
of like,
space.
we're going back
Just
to the
have to
idea of
make
are they
sure the
already
parachute
here?
doesn't open. I think that's the best thing.
No, it opened, unfortunately. But anyway, but going back to the idea of are they already here? I mean, this is again this concept of Men in Black or whatever.
Right.
I mean, and this is a big question, isn't it? Because when you got the alien UFO, or we don't call them UFOs now. What do you call UAPs now, right? Unidentified aerial phenomenon thing. So there's a concept of that. But then you always do think that, well, if an alien race is so sophisticated, they would probably have come up with some kind of cloaking technology where we wouldn't necessarily have to see them. The thought about alien abductions, I mean, that can be put down to like, it could be hallucinogens, it could be nightmares, it could be dreams, it could be hypnosis.
Barney and Betty Hill from 1961 is the most well-documented case. Do you know that story, I'm assuming?
I think it's one of the ones I just read, because I was reading a few of them just before we came on here.
Barney and Betty Hill. Barney was a postal worker, and he was a black gentleman, and Betty was a white school teacher. They were married up in the upper, I want to say it was Connecticut, Vermont, or whatever. And the only reason I say that their colors have nothing to really do with it, but in the time, 1961, that's a big thing to be a black and white, to be a mixed marriage. They were driving home from a party. Let's say it's 9 o'clock at night. They see a light. There's a recording of it. They made a movie about it with Darth Vader's guy. But you can listen to the recording, and there's this whole thing where they were screaming and this and the ba. And then they look back at their watch and they get home at like 2 a.m. And what they found was that they lost, say, 3.5 hours. And they put them in regression. They went through the whole thing. The most fascinating part I've read the book, I've seen the movie, went to the play. The most fascinating thing about the whole Barney and Betty Hill thing, which I thought was cool, is Betty asked them where they're from. And they pointed to a star map in their ship.
Yeah.
And during hypnosis,
seeing a star map, yeah.
No, right. No. During hypnosis, she drew the star map. And they showed it to astrophysics. They showed it to the astronomers, and nobody could. It doesn't exist. I think it was 3 or 5 years later they found that star galaxy that she drew, and that to me is documented. Like, I don't think she made it up. A school teacher from the middle of nowhere, it doesn't have a telescope that's going to go out, like a 300-inch telescope on top of a mountain. Maybe she did, but. So I think there is proof. It's just a matter of.
Well, there must be if there's a movie and a play and a musical and
I'm just saying it's scientifically. If scientifically,
but isn't it funny? Why is it that all these abductions take place in the U.S.?
They take place all over the world.
No, there have been other places, but they're just better documented there. I think that's the problem.
Oh, right.
That's where it is.
Listen, we're just.
Like
and also everybody else keeps quiet about it.
Right. Yeah. Well, the other thing is that we're more vocal about things here because you guys are all.
I'm just looking.
Right. The Brits would just be like.
Yeah, the Brits would like stiff upper lip, carry on.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep calm and drink tea, no problem.
Right.
Right.
Well, it's quite normal to go out the weekend and come back and have a pain in your ass, isn't it? So they just put it down. It's quite
easy to come back with a cone head. Normally a traffic cone. So anyway, but a couple. So they said they saw shiny black uniforms. They saw aliens in shiny black uniforms. They came home. They lost about 2 hours of their time. They did have hypnosis sessions. And they found that they said they'd taken aboard a craft by gray-skinned humanoid beings with large eyes. I mean, that's a very stereotypical description, isn't it? And Betty described one of the beings
1950 sci-fi movies.
Yeah, and Betty described one of the beings showing her a star map, which she later drew from memory, a layout of star systems allegedly showing the alien's origin. So yeah, I mean, this is the scientific and skeptical take. There's talk that it was hypnosis-induced memories. There was some sort of psychological. They're blaming it on psychological stress from being an interracial couple in a hostile era. Wow, that's a leap. But I don't know. I mean, maybe. So that was that story. But I don't know. I don't know if is it a fact that they didn't know the location of that star system before she drew it?
At the end of the book their book that I read when I was a kid in the 70s, at the very end of the book, they said one of the most interesting things about this case was the fact that they found
though.
Yeah, they said they found the star system that she drew like 5 or 10 years. Like I said, 5 or 10 years later.
Well, who said that then?
The author of the book said that he lists like the UCLA or whoever found it. So I thought that was interesting. David, your mic's making noise. So stop tapping.
So in the 1960s, amateur.
It's my heart going.
It's your heart. It's pacemaker. The pacemaker needs a new recharge. Plug it in.
There you go.
In the 1960s, amateur astronomer, school teacher, Marjorie Fish tried to match Betty's map to real star systems. She built a 3D model of nearby stars from Earth's perspective. In 1968, she said the map closely matched stars surrounding the Zeta Reticuli, a binary star system 39 light years away. So they called it the Zeta Reticuli hypothesis. That's what they said. So that's kind of where we are with that one. Nobody's been there yet. But this is the other thing is like
Exactly. So
We know of.
what we do know, and what actually even just recently I think it was in the news, is that there are planets within 40 light years apparently where
that's just around the corner then.
They are what in Star Trek what we would call M-class planets. They could sustain life. So there is, I think even Stephen Hawking, when they asked him, he said there's no doubt that there's life out there. There's no question of that. Whether that's come here, that's the question. But he was very negative about it. Stephen Hawking was like, "Oh no, we don't want them visiting us because they'll be millions of years too advanced." And we shouldn't be sending out voyages or whatever with little maps and details of what we are and who we are and where we are. He said because that's just inviting trouble. So there is that aspect of if we did encounter them, or if they did arrive, if we had that first contact, would it be benevolent or belligerent? Would it be Klingons?
Belligerent, I would think. Why else would you make the effort? You'd want to come here to eat us or to take whatever.
Well, no, but I mean, on the other hand, if a species or a civilization is so advanced, then they've transcended the need for acquiring stuff or greed or anything like that. They may not even be a species in a biological sense anymore. They may be if you're talking millions of years of evolution. I mean, that's a whole different level,
Okay, so all right. So there's no more selfish people.
I mean, the thing is, we are putting them at our level. So because this is the thing, like the Klingons are our creation. We're saying, but the thing that always bothered me about the Klingons, although they have given them a history that justifies it, is if the Klingons were so aggressive and so warlike and so mad, how did they go into space? Where were the Klingon scientists? How did they actually develop that? And that's the thing. It's like for any species to be able to do that, to get to that level where, if they talk about, even Einstein agreed that the warp drive or something similar to a warp drive was theoretically possible, but the amount of energy that you need to do that is equivalent to a star. So in order to be able to harness that and deploy that safely, the evolution of technology and your intellect and intelligence should be so great that you've transcended corruption and greed and malevolence and all the rest of it. One would assume.
That's counted out the USA for a start then.
Well, if you think back to Columbus, who supposedly started, to find a new trade route and, that kind of stuff. It might have started out benevolent, but ends up.
Oh, he started out being paid. That's why
he went.
No, he just ended up in the wrong place, didn't he?
Bahamas.
So I'm looking for India. And the Indians like, I'm waiting for Columbus. He said he would be coming. It's still no sign. I don't know where did he go to this. He's out there looking out for the bloody Indians. I don't know where he's gone.
I'm looking for my Slurpee, so may I have it?
He arrived in America and he was like, these are Indians. And they're like, no, we're not. No, you are. You are now Indians. Oh, okay.
But didn't they worship him as some kind of didn't they know that there was going to be some kind of godlike creature and,
No, that was the Incas, I think.
From,
the Incas or the Mayas with the Cortez thing. They were expecting a godlike creature to show.
Yeah, that was going to come down from the spaceship. They got the wrong one. They were waiting for the benevolent aliens, and they got that idiot. But.
There is also another thought process because say for example, say we go first contact Star Trek style, and we have a benevolent race like the Vulcans arrive, and then they arrive, and we're all friendly and this and that, and then being humans, we're like, hey, these guys are stupid. They're very smart, but they're a bit stupid. They're a bit gullible, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? And we would get up to our old tricks, wouldn't we? We'd be like, let's just steal all their technology. This is essentially what happened in Star Trek, didn't they? Because humans established a federation, having learned everything from the Vulcans, So that's kind of where we are. So I think that Stephen Hawking may be right, but I think there's also a case for the opposite, that actually we would be the evil ones, and they would take the aliens for a ride. They turn up here going, oh, we're here to help you. Hey, yeah, what you got?
Mm-hmm.
What you got in the bag? What you got in the back of that bag?
Well, here's an interesting.
That's true. That's a good point.
I will also tell you this, to your point. We were talking before about Congress and senators. We actually reached out to about 7 different Congress people that were on the panel and senators and said, would you like to come on the show? And what we wanted to talk to them was about is the industrial war complex and UFO technology. Not so much if there's UFOs or not, but if you find it, what's going to happen then to the DOD, blah, blah. And they were all like, yeah, we can't discuss that. We can't. None of them wanted to come on the show. One, because, I've seen the shows they're on and they get kind of softball questions. So tell me, Do they wear nice flowing gowns? I'm like,
Yeah.
like I want to know real. So they're like, no, if you like, they were like, we can give you softball questions. I'm like, no, we'll ask real questions. So
Yeah.
they would, all the Congress people and senators that we actually called and sent little emails to. This is about 6 months ago. Three of them said no. They were very nice. They sent something back. The other like 8 never even heard back from them. Even though we spoke to their officer, I was like,
But
please
isn't
send an
that
email to respond.
slightly contradictory to what you said earlier on? Why would a congressman know that and the president not?
No, they don't know. They only know what they hear in their
Well, they would know as much. They would know as
committees
much
and
as
whatever.
Yeah, but I think that isn't wouldn't it be better to speak to the guys, to speak to the scientists and the researchers and the R&D guys that are working on top secret technology, or I suppose it's hard to get to them because it's top secret technology. But
they're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, but the point is, like, when we talk about, just going back to the point I was making earlier about us being the corrupt ones, and in a sense, if that has already happened, if, for example, there was a crash in Roswell in 1960, whatever, and we did find some technology, and that did then lead to, the weapons and the technology and everything that we've got today. Have we not already done that? Have we already gone hold of, this is alien technology, we can use it for good, or we can conquer everybody? This is human nature.
Look at Nikola Tesla. Like, he had his tower. He took the tower idea from the pyramid idea for free energy, and that got nixed really quick. So no, human beings are just greedy little, pardon my French, motherfuckers, and they can give a shit, and that's it. And that was very
if the technology was so advanced and it was in the hands of Americans, then we wouldn't, the whole world would be run by Americans, wouldn't it? Now, as a military might. So I can't see that.
Isn't it though?
It used to be until the Orange Man got in.
They may think it.
But now he's just bullying everybody into doing what he wants, right?
But just think it. To go back to your thing, if you're the president and I'm one of these guys who has to brief you on stuff, and because we know you, like, we have a good idea of your, like, what you're going to do, why would we tell you? But what I say to you, listen, Sherrod, congratulations, you're the president. By the way, we have a base on the moon. We've had it there since 1960. We've got this, we've got technology, blah, 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 blah. There's interdimensional people. And I go through, why would I do that, knowing, one, that you're a 4-year or 8-year renter, and 2, knowing that you were an idiot? Why would I tell you anything? So I think that's a big reason that they don't tell the president for a lot of things.
The conspiracy theorists among us then would say, well, who are you? And who owns you? And who controls you, and who allows you to?
Nobody knows who MIB is because they do the flicky, pointy thingy.
First of all, that's very simple. The Jews. We own everything. So it's just, we have space lasers. We own the UFOs. We own the aliens. They pay rent. It's just, I'm sorry. It's just the way it works. You pay rent. It's just the way it works. I'm sorry to tell you that. It's just, it is. It's like Monty Python's music. You can't put on a Broadway show. You got to have a Jew. You can't run a universe, gotta have Jews. Sorry, people. It's just true fact. It's the way it goes. But I'm just saying, if you look at this in this context of all of that, it's fascinating. And I'm assuming that if there really were aliens, whether they're nice or they're not nice, or we have an agreement with them that they can cattle mutilate or abduct people, if their technology, and a lot of the people say it's multi-universe, it's multi-dimensional, it could be all of that. But if you have that kind of technology, and, like, let's take that Tic Tac that starts at the sea level at 0 and goes from 0 to 80,000 feet, if you will, or for those people in the United Kingdom, 27,000 meters, in a matter of a second.
Yeah, it'll be in the UK.
Right?
No. You're talking the continent. We're still feet and yards and
still feet and yards.
Okay. So I'm just talking
and pounds of pears.
Okay. So there you go. It's a stone. But I'm just saying, if it can go that fast and do things that defy gravity, if we have that technology and we're not sharing it to help the world, shame on us. But if it really is from another universe or another dimension or a flat Earth,
we've conquered that, haven't we? We've conquered the whole Tic Tac thing, because you get them in a little, you get them in a little containers. They don't go anywhere. You just flip it up, and
I'm going to call that home now.
Can somebody plug him back in again?
Nurse Betty, could you please go see David? He needs his pills. No, there you go.
I mean, so what's the issue about Tic Tacs? I mean, that's just another way of selling product, isn't it? I mean, come on.
Sure, but I'm just saying, though, if you think through that kind of technology and that kind of physics.
Yeah, but who do we have? Who says we have to believe that?
Well, they have
Which
video
they-
of it, so you don't have to
Oh
believe it.
yes,
It's there.
I must be. Oh, it must be true.
No, but the
Yeah.
Navy released Defense Department video of it. They didn't like
Oh yeah,
make it
right.
up.
So
And you've got naval
we
aviators.
can trust them then.
That's-
No,
Because
no,
That's how we know the Brits don't like have this stuff, because they would be like the whole time they'd be like, pull the other one. Like they would never
Yeah.
believe their alien could walk up to them and be like,
Right.
here's all the evidence, and they'd just be like,
Yeah, but whose
yeah.
evidence?
Yeah, all
is
right,
it?
mate.
You,
You're
what,
having
you
a
have
laugh.
to, you
You're
have
having a
to,
laugh, mate.
right,
Come on,
exactly.
yeah,
Have a
come on.
laugh,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
what do we have to believe the U.S. Navy? I mean, why? So
And the,
you know,
and the trouble is that now
what's the
we are
credibility there? They've
Do
been,
you have
they've
to
been
believe there's
bombers and
air? No. Do you have
in
to
the
believe there's
past
gravity?
we've
No.
always relied on
no
seeing
such
is
thing as
believing.
gravity.
We've always relied on seeing is believing, and we've always relied on like, let's get some pictures, let's get some video, and the pictures and the video, admittedly, has always been fuzzy and not terribly clear and not terribly
it's a bit
obvious.
like Nessie, isn't it? Like
Yeah, exactly. And in the day and age
Right.
of these, we're like, come on, we've got 4K video. Come on, where is the 4K video? You know.
Right.
But now, of course, we're
Good
in that
point.
transitional period where even if somebody does give you the 4K video and goes, I filmed this, we're not going to believe anything because of what
Nope.
the quality of stuff that we're now getting from AI, where you can
Right.
literally animate anything, create anything, and
Ah.
it looks totally convincing from the lighting to the angle to the way it moves, everything. It's like it's literally like you said earlier. Even if an alien did land, in the middle of Times Square, and 500,000 people filmed it and posted it, people were like, "Yeah, it's just AI generated, isn't it?"
Yeah.
You could
So
still.
are you going back to the point that I think either you or Steve made earlier on then about the fact that the aliens are already among us, and in order to make sure that we're never ever going to know that now, we're in sort of a grey period.
We've got this technology now.
We've now got AI, so no, because that's AI.
They're in cahoots. Aliens and the AI are in cahoots. We've just figured it out. There you
There
go.
you go.
Well,
here,
And the place to hide is in plain sight.
Right. Well, here, look at this.
Yeah.
Remember last year,
Very
I think,
true.
or the year before, Biscayne
to this
Bay,
show.
Miami. There was this whole big thing with like 500 police
Yeah,
cars,
yeah.
and they closed the airport, and all of a
Right.
sudden they
All-
were talking
all
about
fake
aliens. So maybe, but people were videoing stuff from the apartment building across the street and posting it, and it was showing larger than life figures and things going on, and blah, blah, and people were like, "You don't know what you're talking about." No, blah blah, and it kind of like within a month just died down. Like, yeah, okay, it's done. It's so to the point. Yes, there was a lady who filmed that UFO outside a plane on her way to LaGuardia, and two other people filmed it, right? And it was like, look at this. It was this cube thing flying by. And I'm always like, why are you filming when you're flying and landing? I don't get that. But they were landing and she was taking a skyline of New York. And so were other people, and this little globe thing just flew right by them. So all these people posted it, and the FAA is like, we're going to investigate it and this and that. But to the point that we brought up earlier, and the one you just brought, we have, if I'm an alien, this is the greatest invention.
He just admitted it, folks. There it is. All right, there. We just captured it. He just admitted it.
But that's the greatest invention in the world, because I now have 8 billion stupid people.
Yeah.
Because everybody's like this. They don't believe anything. And to your point, I can make a video. I can do this.
Wait,
it's perfect.
there is precedent for this. Because when War of the Worlds was
That is the best Orson Welles.
when the story was told, it was told on the radio.
Yep.
And what happened?
People went
rushed
crazy.
down to have a look
Freaked
at this thing that had landed in the middle of London, because they thought, oh damn, it's on the radio, it must be real. So we're kind of now in the reverse of that, where we could announce it to the world and people would just be like, it's a PR stunt. Who's sponsoring that? You know what I mean? That's all. It's Coca-Cola.
But even if an alien mothership, let's say, like they show those pictures of the sun, that there's something that's sucking like the sun plasma, and it goes and it darts off, and it's very from a sun telescope. You're like, that's interesting. But even if something that big was hovering outside of our atmosphere, and you could see it, people are going to be like, yeah, whatever. I mean, but
actually, as you said, I think a few episodes back, there was that big cylindrical shaped thing that did do a fly past, didn't it?
The apple goopy copy, or whatever it's called.
And the scientists said, look, it's moving in a way that's not natural. But everybody's like, oh no, it's just an asteroid, it's just a rock or whatever.
That's just a giant tic tac.
They said that was an interstellar.
It's a log in space.
But it
was
looked
huge.
like a log. It was They said it was an interstellar ship. Avi, I can't remember his last name, of the Harvard professor. I read his book about it. It's fascinating. And I said, when they first saw it, he's like, oh, this is going to be a comet or a meteor or whatever. And he said, but the problem was it would stop, and then it would make a turn, and it would stop again, and then it would keep going, and then it was kind of like, we're going to go this way, okay, and then it would go, and then make another turn.
So this goes
So-
right back to what I said right at the beginning, isn't it? Like my friend the alien in the car,
Yeah.
that thing stopped, took some scans,
And
looked
left.
at us, and thought, "We'll be back later."
And they just kept going.
They just kept going, and
And they kept going.
It's not worth bothering with these people.
But here's the funny part: if you look at the pictures of it, and you know, because everyone like it for the sci-fi and in the videos, like what a spaceship should look like. This looked like, if you will, a big, long rock.
Yeah.
Now, who's to say that's not whatever carbon fiber, whatever material to keep them safe because of radiation, whatever?
Yeah,
But
of course.
it's like there's no windows, right? Everyone's got to be windows. There's
It
no.
doesn't have to be.
And that's
You
the
see,
thing.
again,
Right, that's the point.
we're imposing our own limited
Right.
mindset on
I think we
alien
have
tech
to
and
you probably
alien.
have to pay more for that though, for a window seat.
Yeah, it's extra. It's an extra option. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's fascinating when you look at stuff like that,
Like-
because even
like
with
flying
it looked
right
like it looked like the Tic Tac, if you
Yeah.
will, of
Oh,
years
we're not
later.
back to Tic Tac again, are we?
Yeah, the candy. So the fascinating part about that is the Tic Tac shows no propulsion system, and
No,
Avi
it's a
Ubi, or whatever it was
sweet.
called,
It's a candy.
it's a sweet, showed no propulsion system either. But it did things that you have to have intelligent control for, and
Yeah.
the professor from Harvard explained it all, and people are like, yeah, whatever. So we are
Because
very
we're
now,
limited in our thought process. I mean, we have this, right? We have the Starship
Yeah.
Enterprise. This is our thought process of what a spaceship looks like, or a Millennium
Right.
Falcon, or whatever. And then whenever these spaceships meet in space, they're always the same way up. Whereas we
Right.
know they could be any way up, right? So the reality of this is how we've programmed ourselves. But the reality, as you say, could be anything.
yeah,
It could be
Borg
completely
had a
bizarre
cube.
and beyond. It could be
Yeah.
a Borg cube. It could be anything.
Yeah,
It could be Ian, one of my
But we're
favorite,
still-
Ian M. Banks. One of the
Right.
species, one of the alien species that he created, they lived in a gas cloud planet, and they were just giant cylindrical beings. I mean, I couldn't even get my head around what he was describing, but he was out there. He was like, okay, look, there doesn't
Well, I
have to
had Mexican
conform
food,
to any of
so
our
I had
notions. Yeah, Mexican food,
I
whatever.
had a gas cloud. I
Some
had a
mushrooms
bunch
in
of
there as
aliens.
well, I
There you
reckon.
go.
But I mean, honestly, it's true though. It doesn't have to conform to anything that we think is normal, right?
No,
But the other
it's
interesting
like
part-
a Tic Tac.
Yeah, I could take that. But the interesting thing is, even if
He's not going to let go of the Tic Tac.
I know he's going to. We're going to call it something else. Avi, the professor that was, I'd love for him to come on the show and talk, because he could actually talk about it. But what was fascinating about it is he's presenting evidence, going, here's something interstellar, something from another world. Like
Yeah.
he can prove it based on its trajectory and moves, and nobody gave a rat's ass about it. I
Yeah.
mean, he goes on a
Well,
few
it's
talk
true,
shows
isn't it?
on
It is,
YouTube.
it is interstellar.
cares.
It's come from somewhere else. It's come from outside of our.
As
outside
a
our
being, as an object, it
Yeah.
has. Yeah, an object,
Yeah.
it has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's you don't
But
have to be
nobody
a Harvard
cared.
professor to work that one out.
Well,
the
you do.
point is that
But-
what was it
but
doing?
what did
Why
he
was
do?
it
Did he-
maneuvering in a certain place? Why
Oh,
was it?
Because if it hadn't have done that, he couldn't have written the book.
Yeah, but everybody said that.
Chicken
it
and
wasn't
egg.
just him. Yeah, chicken and egg. Whatever it does.
Chicken and Tic Tac. That's all I'm saying.
There you
chicken
go.
and
Oh,
Tic Tac.
God. After chicken, you got to have a Tic Tac. I agree.
Yeah.
So, Vicky, you've been quiet because we talk over you. So, you tell us, what are your thoughts on the Jews owning everything? No, I'm just kidding. Even the aliens.
No, ask
what
her
is-
about
what's your-
Tic Tac, Stephen. Ask her about
Yeah,
something
what-
sensible.
There you
Talk
go.
about
What's your thought on
Tic Tacs, Vic?
what's your thought on all of
Tic
this?
Tacs?
Yes, no,
you
not
need
Tic
to
Tacs. The
stop
aliens, everything.
saying the name, David, because they need to pay us if you're going to give them that much.
Seriously.
Seriously,
advertisement.
we've given
I
them a
didn't
lot
start.
of
I
PR.
didn't start. Actually, the gentleman above you, who normally gets paid for everything.
That was quick.
There you go,
Oh, I needed that.
David.
Hold on,
there you go.
hold on.
That's
Oh,
shaking
sorry.
things. That's shaking things up, isn't it?
There you go. So, but no, but so what do you
my
think?
two favorite
Vicky?
aliens
Real,
upstairs.
Vicky,
Let's write the
Vicky,
book.
we always knew they were interchangeable.
there you go.
That's
Real or
true.
not real, Vicky?
You
What
got
do
one
think?
old fart, you can't tell them apart.
Oh, wow. Thanks a lot.
That's the voice of experience then.
There you go.
Well, look who our
So,
lover
Vic, tell
is.
us
It's the
about the
ex-president of
Tic
South
Tacs,
Korea.
Vicky. Tell us
So-
about the Tic Tacs
What?
in South Korea.
So what do you think, Vicky?
Oh.
Real, not real? What are your thoughts?
Definitely real.
Thanks for slowing up the show.
And no, I just didn't
She's
even think
being
about
very
it. It
cautious.
wasn't
She doesn't
alien
want-
related
She
though.
doesn't want to be
It was-
visited by Will Smith and the other guys. You know.
Yeah,
There you
exactly.
go.
I have to be very careful, especially if I travel and the feds get a hold of all these videos that we've made.
We
our
send
social
them
media.
to
We
the
might not be
feds
allowed
every
back in.
day, so we're good. So no, but what do you think? Do you think they're real? And if they are, do you think they're here? Do you think they're going to show themselves? I mean, are they part of the flat Earth theory, hypothesis? Because it's not a theory, it's a hypothesis. Do we have bases on Mars? Like, what do you think? Have they been here millions of years, and we have a DNA problem where we forgot our past? Or are the Anunnaki real, where they really came down and
I
helped genetic
yeah,
to us?
I think I don't know. I think in my mind, I guess, I think it's definitely real,
Okay.
because why would the rest of the universe exist that we can't even see or understand if we're the only ones here, right? That's always the fallback on that. But like I think they're probably visiting. And I'm saying that just because, just checking us out. And there's probably different ones, and they have different ships, and they're all kind of like, they've marked this planet. You can kind of like, it's like New Jersey. You can drive by and you might want to stop if you like need a meal or something, but you probably don't really want to pull over, that kind of thing. Sorry, New Jersey. But I don't think they're like living here, and I don't see why they would be living here. It's kind of my thing.
Unless,
I don't see the purpose of that.
Well, unless, like you say, they are monitoring us. I mean, again, going back to
they're
the
monitoring us, sure, and they check in, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" And that little.
So again, going back to the log in space,
Mhm.
if we go back to the theory, if we go again, fall back on Star Trek theory because that's all we understand. If we go back to the theory that species have been seeded, right?
Mhm.
And so other aliens are actually going to look like us or similar because we've all been seeded, right? And what if this log was just doing a fly past to check out how we're getting on? What if it actually dropped a few passengers off on the way, which is why it did these maneuvers? And it goes, hey, you guys, you're stationed here now for the next 300 years until we're on the way back, sort of thing. We'll pick you up. Who's to say that isn't actually happening? Because if there are aliens here, they're not going to. They're either going to be here for a few days or they're going to be here for hundreds of years.
Well, I mean,
living amongst us, right?
This alien stuff. I mean, like, was it space stations on Mars? I mean, you leave a Mars out in the sun, it'll melt. I mean, it's all ridiculous.
Death wears thy sting.
Totally ridiculous. All of it. It comes out of a deep. For me, it comes out of a deep-seated arrogance that the Homo sapiens want to be the rulers of everything and understand everything, and you just think, oh well,
that's part of our charm, though, David.
So we should not bother.
Well, some people. No, what's the point?
What
do you need?
Point of this podcast, anyway? What are we doing here?
Why are we here?
Why is anything happening?
Exactly.
I'm not seeing any of that. Where is it? Where's that? Where's that?
Hey, just so you know, neither are we.
We're not seeing any aliens. We're not seeing any of that. What are we all doing here, honestly?
Isn't it something sort of
lovely day
basic,
outside?
This incredible need to there must be something else. There must be. This can't be everything. Well, yeah, it is.
Well, it is. But David, that is what drives us, and that is what separates us from all of the other creatures on the planet, doesn't it? Is that because we are bold and inquisitive, and we want to go and find stuff. We want to go. What
separates us is our ability to communicate through writing and through speech, which can be repeated again and again and again through generations.
No, because they have now established that creatures are able to communicate. It's just recently in the news.
They are, but
the dolphins had a quite a sophisticated form of language, apparently. It's not. So I don't think that is what separates us. I think what separates us is that we go and do stuff that we don't need to. For animals, it's quite simple. You wake, you hunt, you eat, you shit, you sleep. Right? That's it. It's like they're like babies. That's what they do.
Forgot something else.
Well, that's appropriate, and that's the other thing. But for us, we're like, no, we do all of that, and then, oh look, there's a mountain. Let's go climb it. Why? Look, there's a moon.
Why?
Let's make a car.
Let's some sperm.
Let's make an atomic bomb that will kill us.
Right, exactly.
Let's just do that.
Doing stupid shit we don't need to. It's the human condition. Exactly.
Yeah.
So if there is, why the hell?
I suppose we are for.
Look at a celestial body in space and go, oh, I want to go there. What did he say? Not because. What did he say? What was a famous speech?
Not because it's easy, but because we can.
Because we can, exactly.
Yeah, because it's a hamburger. That's what it is. But I mean,
I
sometimes think that we're
Still
almost. It's
Lily.
almost as like we're sort of like the universe's version of cat videos on the YouTube. You know what I mean?
Well,
We
this
just see it.
is right here.
This-
This is, yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
But we as humans, I think we're more than that, and I think at least I hope that we're more than that. Otherwise, God help us.
No, we're not.
And at some point we'll get our heads out of the phones and stop scrolling
Yeah.
TikTok and go out and do amazing stuff again like we used to, right? I
Yeah,
can't wait for
that's-
some brown people to open the first corner shop on Mars. I think that's what needs to happen, right?
Well, it'll melt.
Come
You
again,
know-
please.
can't-
Thank
you
you.
Purple squishies.
Would you like a Slurpee, please, before you go? Take a big gulp. It's a big gulp. Have the
We
big
got a
one. Take the
special
big
on
one. It's a
warp
long
drives
trip.
today. Special. We got
Yes.
some warp drives in. We got a special on them.
Oh,
I
love
think
it.
I think the funny part is that I think Graham Hancock I really is the one who's captured. He says, I think our this generation has a DNA snip where they lost the history, especially if you go to the pyramids and the Sphinx. There's the thing about the Anunnakis coming down, and then if you start going back and start looking through history, there's all this, all these stories and histories about other places, other planets, and they describe things like I can never pronounce it, the Vashi Washi, whatever, the Indian big book, right? It describes about flying carpets, and they describe the flying carpet that looks like a spaceship. That's like 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So they didn't have that 5,000 years ago, and it talks about the technology and how you build it, and they didn't have that 5,000. So I have a feeling that a lot of it is true. It's just that we forgot, or our government's trying to suppress it. You look at the map from like 1490 something, that is, or it's 1390 something. That's a perfect map of the world. So
How
in
did
the
they do that?
Antarctic and everything else.
How did they do that?
So,
Who
so
went
that's
up
my,
in space and said, "Here's a picture
correct.
of your planet"? It's
But
like,
that's my point, though.
Yeah.
All this stuff is very hard to explain. Now, longitude and latitude that we know of came in the 17th or 18th century. The map that's like from the 1300s has longitude and latitude lines, and it's like, so
Yeah.
I think there's too much that's unexplained, and I think the problem is because everyone's so
Stephen,
self-absorbed,
you
they
do
don't
have to
look
be
at things.
careful because there's two aspects to this. There's one aspect of saying, the whole, the aliens built the pyramids,
Right,
but then on the other hand, we also then risk negating human achievement because there are incredible
and the
human
History
beings.
Channel, and
Yeah,
Discovery,
and the History Channel, Discovery Channel.
right.
But there are incredible people that sat in the middle of the desert and looked up at the stars and created astronomy. Do you know what I mean? There are people that did this, right? So at the same time, we shouldn't take that credit away from what humans did. At the same time as looking as well, was there some other involvement or some other aspect in it? Was there some guiding hand?
Right.
Maybe
I think it was a joint effort. I think it was joint. I think the humans did a
collab.
lot. But
In a term that the Gen Z would understand, it was a collab, dudes.
Why is
There's
this
a collab,
this
dude.
obsession? This obsession in something larger than ourselves. Why? Why are we obsessed
It's
with
the
it?
fascination with it because, and we've talked about this
Well,
before.
because we can't understand the world we live in, so therefore it has
No,
to
the
be.
world we live in is shit.
David,
It's easy to
I
understand
think
it.
it's more than that, David. I think there is this. People would say fascinating because we want to find something or we want to find meaning or
Right.
being or whatever. But I think that also it's aspiration. It's like we're looking for something more than ourselves because we want to be more than ourselves. It's not.
Well, there's a lot of
human
people on
nature
this
is not a
planet
limiting
who
nature.
want to be who want to be gods. That's for sure. But,
To
We're
be,
an evolving
it's blasphemous to say that to some people, but in a sense, yes, because why do we create this technology? Because we can do. What was the quote? It's like technology today appears like it's magic. It's basically, I think it was. Who am I thinking of? It's one of the authors said that. But anyway, it said it would appear as magic, and it is magic. And the stuff that we can do today already, like it's mind blowing.
We know that magic doesn't exist. We know,
but
it's
we've created
all
it.
Sleight of hand.
Yeah, but we've created it. We've created magic. The
This
fact
sleight
that,
of
the
hand
fact
that
that we're
we live
doing
in
this,
now.
that we're doing this right
Mhm.
now.
We're doing
Imagine
this
we're
we're
got nothing else to do. It's a
bored,
nice
can't
day
do anything
outside. I
can.
want to get some ice cream later. No, seriously. But honestly, like when you think about 20 years ago, imagining that four of us in entirely different places are now sitting here interacting and talking like this, recording it, transmitting it, and then posting it. I mean, this is all mind blowing if you think about it. It simply is.
If you told somebody about this 100 years ago, they'd be like, "Yeah, that's cute. Like, yeah, good luck with
Yeah,
that."
but
Not even 100.
They'd lock you up.
50.
They'd lock you up or
Yeah.
burn you. You're a witch, right? You
Yeah.
get burned, right?
Vicky knows this because I've said this before on shows. You don't exist, any of you. I'm in this coma, and you're in it as well.
The
So
fever
that's
dream.
You're just all trapped in here with me.
Yeah, Exactly. I mean, so
David,
this is
why
all my.
did you create us? It's such a
this is
weird
all-
bunch. That
Yeah.
you just,
Yeah,
God,
really.
it's
This
all
is the
one
best
big
you can do.
fucking nightmare. I
Why?
tell you. Well, diversification for a start.
Yeah,
You know,
there you go.
we got
This is a Jew,
religious,
Church of
sexual.
England, a
This is
Czech,
your.
and
Yeah,
Pakistani. So yeah, we're good.
yeah,
This
so,
is
yeah,
But
I'm
here's
the
the
total
interesting.
brown guy
diversity
and the
dream.
jihadi all in one. I got it
There
for
you
you,
go.
no problem.
There you
Well done,
Allahu
David,
Akbar.
for a little
Yeah.
white Englishman.
Little
Yeah,
white
You
English.
did well.
yeah. But the
Here's
thing is, you see that you're all in little boxes, aren't you? And
Well, we are, literally.
And I have total control over that. So you know,
Now
I'm
who
not
has
gonna
God?
let-
Now who had godlike
Wow.
aspirations?
Yeah,
now
yeah.
has
Just overlord.
just gotta just let you out whenever I feel like, or
But
turn
the-
you on, switch you on whenever
There
I
you
feel
go.
like it.
Yeah.
That
But
explains
to
a
answer
lot, actually.
answer your question from earlier, I think the
Uh-oh.
reason that we do all this stuff, the AI and whatever, I think humans are trying to get to some nirvana. But the other part of it, I like the history and the reading because I'm fascinated by it. And I've said this before on the show, somewhere in evolution of the 13 billion linear, like time doesn't really exist, but in the 13 billions that we give it, we're somewhere from 0 to say 10. We're probably like 5 or 6. I want to go to the -1, right before 0. So for me, it's more of it's like a mind game. So if the Anunnaki are real, great. So from the Anunnaki, who can I trace you back to, and who can I go? And I want to know really, because I don't believe in the Big Bang. I find that's a hard one. The string theory was big for a while. That stopped. Now there's another hypothesis that just came out. There's
Yeah, it's
another one
called
called the
sperm
Matrix.
race. We've already
The
covered
sperm
that.
race,
Yeah,
right.
we covered
But
that.
I'm just saying, there's all these
we're getting sponsors
hypotheses,
for that soon.
but nobody has the answer.
You have to
And to
contribute to
me,
it first.
that's the one. That's the answer I want to find. So for me, if there's more intelligent beings or beings that have been around billions of years, I want to know
it's
from
more
them.
than that. I think it's more than that. I mean, you said just before you said that we're looking for a nirvana. I don't think it's even that, because if we were
Yeah.
looking for a nirvana, or we were looking
Right.
to create one, we would have done that by now, because we've got the technology to be able to do that. But we're just too belligerent,
And you get
and too
t-shirts with
corrupt,
it
and
on.
too greedy to be able
Right,
to
greedy.
do that. I think
Yeah.
that what it is that humans are by nature restless. You know, it
Maybe.
goes
Yeah.
back again to that analogy between animal life and us. Animals, like, as long as they're getting fed and they got the water, they're just going through life. They're not doing anything more than that. They're like, that's
Right.
all we need. Cows will just graze in a field because they know nothing else. They don't need to do anything else. Humans can't sit in a field for ages. They'll be like, no, now we need to go. I need to go over there, or I need to go over there and build a building, or I need to go over there and kill those people, or now I need to go and conquer that land. You know, you need to do. Humans are restless. They're just like, oh, we've got to do. This is what differentiates us between everybody else. And I think the whole notion of, like, why, going back to David's question, why are we doing this stuff? Why are we talking about aliens? Why are we going to space? Why do we want to go to Mars? It's like, because we're restless, because we have to, because it's part of what we are. It's what makes us different. Yeah. And we need the views. We need the views, the likes, everybody remember, view, like, share, subscribe, comment.
Exactly. We've all got was it intergalactical ADAD? That's what it is. Oh,
Yeah,
let's go there.
And,
that's what it is.
Kind of tailing off that, like when David, we're talking about being able to communicate, and Shazad said that we're not the only species that communicates. I believe we're the only species that has stories and makes up stories to entertain ourselves. So, like, we get bored with survival. Like, we get bored with eating, sleeping, whatever. We want entertainment. Like, we want.
But is that because there are too many of us? Do you think?
Or it's too easy?
No. Because if you
think
back
it's just
to
part of the human.
You think back to early human evolution. You think of the caveman. The caveman didn't leave the cave because there's too many people in the cave. He went out to hunt. He hunted the most dangerous thing. He could have just survived on berries or whatever. No, I'm gonna go kill that tiger or whatever.
And then he came back and had to tell the story of how he killed all the berries, and it got passed down to his kids, and then his kids like drew it on the wall, and then they embellished it and said, well, Dad did this, and then there was another story, and then
I think not enough these days is made of human ambition and human endeavor and human achievement, and we're so caught up in finding our insecurities and our neurodivergent issues and problems, which are all real problems and they should all be addressed. But I think that we've stopped thinking outside the box. We've just basically put ourselves in these boxes that we're in right now, and and we've stopped trying to reach beyond. And I think that is a bit of a handicap at the moment. I think we'll probably evolve out of it. I think we probably will, because at some point we'll get bored again. We'll get bored with these devices, and we're like, oh, enough of that. Right, what's out there? And I think that's what's gonna. Shit, I broke my phone.
Well, you're done. You're done with your
I
device.
need a new phone, damn it. But I mean, so I think it's human nature, and I think the whole discussion with aliens is even if they don't exist, I think we will create them. And that goes back to earlier to what I was saying about AI. In a sense, AI is an alien amongst us, because it is an entirely different species that we've kind of created. Are we gods? We're turning into them.
Love it. That's very cool. Gentlemen and ladies, I think with that profound statement that the brown car guy made,
What
we
a
should
great
end
place
the
to end
show.
it.
That is a great place to end. Everybody,
You did
thank
that
you
on
for
purpose.
being here, for watching. The people that were watching live, thank you. We broadcast this on Friday. Just to let you know, our YouTube channel is now in like 10 different languages. So if you have a friend that doesn't speak English, you can actually send it to them. And YouTube now is translating it so you can hear it in any language. And we did
My
this Slippy
videos too. Mine too.
Yes,
I've turned it
everybody's
on as
videos.
well.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yep. We
Brown
all
car guy.
have, you can all can see Brown Car Guy, and we tag you in this, and so everyone will watch you. Brown Car Guy will be back next month, and we have no idea yet what we're going to talk about next month, but we figured we'd do a follow-up to the alien show, which we did. Vicky, it's always good to see you. Vicky is also now a spokesperson for South Korea, and you can watch her videos on Vicky IRL on our channel. Go to the podcast or on playlist, and you can find her stuff that she's posting about South Korea and her lover from North and South Korea, both the president of South Korea and Kim Jong-il, or his sister. I'm not sure who her lover is anymore. And David will be going back to the home. We'll see. And then and that's it, kids. So we hope you have enjoyed the show.
We just switch David off, don't we? And then we switch him back on.
We'll put the nurse is going to put on the way.
This is my nightmare. All right, I'm in charge of that.
Don't forget to subscribe and like, everybody, and we'll see you all next month with the Brown Car Guy and Vicky. And have a wonderful rest of your May. Cheers, everybody.
As long as